Well, just to talk about the eToys project, so I wish, how do you describe it in terms of educational purpose? If you think it's an introduction to the people to learn programming techniques, or is a shift in the paradigm of education, like Smalltalk is supposed to be is an object-oriented paradigm and it's different as procedural paradigm, and you think is the development is in this kind of sense, or it's just to have the new techniques that the kids need to learn about programming?
Actually, the purpose of eToys is to learn about how to think, to solve problems, and by solving problems with eToys, what you do is programming. So you use the programming techniques, but like a side effect. The main focus is on solving mathematical problems or scientific problems, making little simulations, and if you simulate something, then you understand how this thing works, what you simulate, and that is the purpose, to give the kids and students and everyone who is interested a tool which is very easy to use without any formal knowledge of programming, but you learn how to program while you use it without explicitly explaining the programming techniques. But you can do that later. If the kids are fluent, then you can explain the object-oriented paradigms, you can tell them what a variable is, you can tell them what kind of programming structures they use, and with eToys you can go really deep. You can deep into the system, you can end up really programming in Smalltalk, and this is very powerful.
And an example of that is a project we always do, beginning with young children or even older children, which is driving a car. And so they draw a car and they move the car around, because there are commands that allow you to move things forward and turn, and there are about 100 different commands. And then you draw a steering wheel. Now these are two separate objects. This is an object-oriented programming, as you and Rita said, and everything on the world is a separate object. So you can then take the steering wheel's direction and put it into the car's direction. So the steering wheel's direction, when you turn the steering wheel, you'll turn the car. So they get an idea of what a very abstract concept of a variable is, or something standing for something, a symbol. So the steering wheel is a symbol for what's turning the car. And then this was a real thing that happened. Previously we could work with people in other countries easily. They could both work in the same program. And I believe it was a student in Germany and a student in the United States, but it doesn't matter which countries they were. But one student was having trouble controlling his car because he turned the steering wheel a little bit and the car would just veer off really quickly. And then the student in Germany showed him how if you divide the steering wheel's heading by 3, it's going to be less sensitive, and then you can see how it's a very concrete example of arithmetic for young children like that. Now they see what the purpose of division is, how division can actually be used in some real problem solving, and what dividing by 3 means. So it's a very interesting world, and you can create just about anything you want in the environment.
What are the things that you saw the people did in eToys that surprised you? So how kind of, which development you saw were more interesting?
mean here at Squeakfest, or you mean?
Yes, we know which eToys that some teacher in some kind of the world or some child did some kind of application that never once.
This is another true thing too. I didn't see it, but somebody at Viewpoints Research, Kim Rose, who's been working with eToys for a long time, told us this story. They went to a classroom. I think they were 8 or 10-year-olds. They were in that range, very young children. And they started them out with eToys and gave them projects, and everybody was busy talking, and there was one little child in the back corner who wasn't doing anything or was separate from the rest of the group. And so she went over to see what he was doing, and she asked him what he was doing, and he was a little embarrassed. And she said, "Why? Well, don't be embarrassed, show me what you did." And so he finally showed her what he did, and he had made the trash can move like a rocket. And in Microsoft Office, you can't make the trash can move. So he was kind of embarrassed that he had done something to a part of the program that he probably thought he shouldn't have. But there's nothing you shouldn't do in eToys. But it was a surprise to Kim, a surprise to all of us to see him be embarrassed about, but that he did it too.
Yes, yes. This the major topic is just to learn the world, simulating it. Like, no, so I remember the Wright brothers, that they create the airplanes, and well, which were the way that everyone tried to create an airplane in the first of the 19th century. There's a lot of research about just to create an airplane, and the major invention, the major idea of the Wright brothers was just not to invent an airplane, just to invent the wind tunnel. The wind tunnel is when the wind tunnel you can simulate a lot of kind of winds and several. So when they create the tool to simulate the world in which an airplane needs to run, they can build an airplane. So this way to create your tools to simulate the world was have a very deep impact, not because you create an airplane, just it was a major invention. And so do you think that the people with this kind of tools are in that direction, just to learn the world simulating it?
Yes.
Yes, I think so.
In the United States, NASA has a lot of education programs. And I used to work, I'm retired now, but I used to work with those education programs. And I've kept in touch. In fact, they've asked me to do a few workshops. And I know right now their major focus is to have young children learn by simulating. Not by listening to lectures, but by simulating something, playing around, making a simulation of it, and seeing how it works. And not just playing with somebody else's simulation where you push buttons and slide sliders and make things happen, but actually make it yourself, author it yourself, do the whole thing yourself. And eToys is one of the only environments I know where it's really easy to do that, because when you're running eToys, you can make any change you want instantly as an author, and you can create anything you want. If you're going to be using something like Flash, you have to have the full program. First of all, it costs money. And second of all, you have to have the full program, and it has a steep learning curve, and you have to create something, and then you save it, and then somebody can look at it, but the people who look at it can only do what you program for them. They can't make any changes in it. But with eToys, if you give somebody a project, they can take it apart, destroy it, see how it works, put it back together, make something else, build on that. So, and simulations, at least in the United States, it's probably everywhere now that they think that's a very valuable tool for learning compared to just sitting in a classroom and having a teacher tell you, this is the way this goes, this is the way that goes, write it down, regurgitate, give it back to me in a test. And
eToys is, well, Claudia talk to me about that. eToys is just to childs, or you think it's for everybody?
It is for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There are children using it. I'm using it at university, for instance.
You are not a child.
Yes, I'm using it with my students at the university for creating teaching materials, because they want to become teachers. They need to think about how the learning process is going, and with eToys you can easily create tools that help you in the classroom. And adults are using it because you can really make also complex simulations easily, and then you can give it and can take it apart. And if you want, you can go into the programming. If it is not enough what eToys offers you to build your simulation on, you can always go and program everything you need, everything you think you will add. You can do that. It is not a black box which hides anything from the children. It is not like this magical machine, this computer is doing something I never understand. You can go deep into the system, you can understand everything.
Perfect. You are also now another project that is also, I think, has its roots in Smalltalk, that is called Scratch. Is similar to eToys, or is totally different?
It is similar. It is built upon eToys.
It was designed for a different purpose, though. They knew that children, especially the age around 10, a little bit less, a little bit more, plus or minus 2 years, really like multimedia. They're really interested in that. So they wanted to, in the expression in the United States, hook them on doing this project. So they put in sound, they put in graphics where you could make changes, like you could distort the graphics, and kids love that. You could make, just like some of those things in Photoshop, only just a few of them. And of course words and movement and so on. And they had a stage where they perform. And so what they usually create with that is little performances or something, you'd call it, like a show. And some, but they can also create something where you have, as a user, have to do something and learn something. They can just do about anything. But they don't have access to the full Squeak environment. And so they can only do what's in the left pane, which is all the controls and things you can change. There's maybe, what, 50 things or so? 50 to 100 things. But they can only do those. And they can't, well, they can build some of them together, but there's just more power in eToys than there is. So
it's more for general purpose. eToys is you can do more things than Scratch.
Yeah, I'd say Scratch is more specific, and it's a great program, and it's a wonderful program.
But if you don't know anything about two of them, from the standpoint of the beginner, the framework is the same. You just put some images and do things. The kind of use is similar.
It's similar.
It's similar. Yeah.
You build scripts with putting tiles together. You don't have to type code, so you will not make any typing errors. This is very, very important for little children. They did not get frustrated.
It's an example. Alan Kay, years ago, Alan Kay was the one who, and his other people who worked with him, developed Squeak and then eToys. I remember years ago he said he didn't want it to be complete and finished. Other people would take it and use it to create complete, finished works. So Scratch is an example of that. That's really polished. It's pretty, you know, it doesn't have many rough edges. But eToys is just completely open for exploration. He doesn't put in a lot of clip art, for example. He doesn't want it to be something where you just automatically do stuff. He wants you to always be thinking about it, what you're going to do. So it, you know, when people look at it, sometimes they say, "Oh, this, you know, this is not a nice environment because it isn't, you know, not a lot of pretty things to do." It's a thinking environment, and he talks about it as hard play. You know, so it is play. You're playing around, but you got to think too, and so it's harder than.
Do you think in the future we are see another frameworks like this, that these frameworks are developing all the time and you have a new version, or probably which could be the impact of the cloud computing? Microsoft, everybody, I try to upload it to the cloud, that the programs lives in the cloud. So how is this kind of things impacting in environment like that?
It is impacting in the fact that you want to make it possible that you can share projects. This is what you can do on the cloud. You can do it on the internet, and you you want to make sure maybe you will only share it in your classroom, maybe you want to share it with the whole world. And we have a first version of our sharing environment, which is a showcase. This will evolve in the future. Scratch has actually a really polished environment for sharing projects, but this is what cloud computing can do for these kind of environments, that you say, what I am doing in my classroom, I can show others, that they can learn from that, and I can communicate with others, they can tell me what they think of my project, and this is also a learning process.
For the standard point of view of the education, it's like a constructivism paradigm. So you are trying, so because, well, when you talk with the people, there are some ones that are against the concept because they think that you need the effort to just really understand the algorithms, and when you are trying to figure it out how it's construct everything, you probably invest less time to do the hard work, not so our 2 point of view of if we can learn everything in about with the paradigm model or not.
It depends. You always need a teacher or a mentor or a person who is guiding you. And eToys is a system where the teacher can guide the students through the system and give them hints and challenges and tell them what to explore. I don't think that anyone can just by accident explore complex things just by playing around with the system. You need to some tasks, some requests, and help from the teacher who explains this to you, and then you go on and construct again. So the teacher is not the person standing in front of you telling you step by step what to do, and you are just following without thinking. The teacher is giving you a little bit of help, and then you go on your own. And then the teacher has to go around and to find out which student needs which kind of help to go on his own. And this is constructionist in my point of view, not just giving them the computer and tell them, now play around and we think you will get smart from just that. I don't think so.
That's the way I actually learned to use eToys, because when it first came out there were no instructions, there were no tutorials, there was nothing, and I was really excited about it when I saw it at a conference. So I went home and downloaded it, and I just mainly used trial and error and trying to guess what I would do if I were a programmer, and half the time the programmers did what I thought I might do, and half the time they didn't, but I figured out a lot of things by just playing around. But I don't think a 10-year-old could easily, so they do need guidance. And I mean, you can start from a blank sheet and say create, but that's kind of hard to do. People usually don't get very far then. I've created projects where there's a lot of things for the students to do. It's almost like a book in a sense, and there are, once they get more familiar with the environment, then I ask them to do some challenges on their own. So that's kind of that's moving towards the other side you're talking about, where you give the students a framework. You can do whatever you want. I mean, you could easily make a textbook-like environment in eToys. It's easy to do because there's a book there, and the only thing is it doesn't use paper, which is actually better. So you could go from one extreme to the other. Teachers, like Rita said, you really need somebody there to guide younger people.
And what is the vision of Alan Kay, the major genius around Smalltalk of this kind of project, that they understand, they are encouraged that it continues to develop, or?
I did not really understand the question.
The Alan Kay,
what's Alan Kay's vision?
Around that kind of projects.
Maybe what Bert is doing is what his vision is now.
Alan
We can tell you what he's doing
support the
now.
project or something like that.
No, she cannot. Okay. She cannot tell you what he's doing. Sorry.
No, I'm not into that.
Yeah, that's okay.
So it's not. Yeah, the viewpoints where Alan Kay is the founder and the head. They carried eToys until 2009, and they, for instance, made sure that eToys is was one of the first activities on the EXO computer, which is running stable. So it is now in the hand of over 1 million kids. Mm-hmm. But then Viewpoint is a research institute, and they are doing research and not creating a finished project. So now the community of eToys takes care of the project. The Squeakland Foundation is just a community of users worldwide who are we meet every week, talk about what things we would like to add, what kind of materials we want to do, and we listen very carefully to what other peoples in other countries are telling us about how they use eToys, how they want to use it. And it is it is kind of the vision of Alan Kay, but of course he is going on to the next step and has his vision for a next system, and Squeakland Foundation takes care that the system we have is stable, we can add some new features, and we want this a system which can really be used in schools, because for that it is really important that it is stable.
Which are the countries that you see are more active around eToys?
South America.
Yes, really?
Yes.
It's a surprise.
Well, this morning there was a talk, and I knew there were a lot of EXO computers down here, but I was surprised to learn almost 90% of the world's EXO computers are in South America. Peru and Uruguay are the two biggest, but if you add all of them, Brazil and so on, most of the rest, only 10% of the computers are in the rest of the world, the EXO computers. And Plan Cibal in Uruguay is developing a very nice framework for using the EXO computers to help students learn in a more authentic way. And eToys is a pretty big part of that from what we've heard. Wow. So we're happy.
So the government supports a lot of the development of computers, so in the school.
Different governments do, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and in the sense of training their teachers, that they learn how to use the technique.
So the problem around that Claudio told me is that the importance of the teachers learn about that, not because they already have the programs installed in the computer of their kids, but the step is very important to the teachers use that, no? But in other parts of the world, it's totally different, the situation.
Well, they have all kinds of computers, so there's a lot of use of eToys in the other parts of the world, but they just don't use EXO computers. Because it'll run on a PC, it'll run on a Mac, it'll run on Linux, it'll run on the Classmate, it'll run on the EXO, it'll, on and on and on. So it is used a lot over the world. It's just that South America has the most EXO computers, and that's where the hope is that there'll be more use of eToys.
But what we did see at Squeakfest, I can say that it is really one of the focal points here, because the teachers here are using it already in a more advanced way. And in Germany, for instance, we don't get many feedback. I am teaching it in several workshops, but I don't hear back from most of the teachers if they actually using it in their classroom. This might be something that teachers are very busy and occupied with many things, so they usually do not talk that much on mailing lists, on forums. So I just don't know much about the usage in Germany. That does not mean that there is not so many, I cannot say.
We're both very impressed when we come to Argentina and Uruguay of what teachers are doing. It's just amazing.
You really saw amazing projects here?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We had a presentation from kids from Brazil, for instance. I think about 12 years old, and they created kind of learning computer games for smaller children at their school. And they presented at the kids themselves, and to see this self-esteem in the kids and this dedication for what they did, this is what we want to have in schools. And so was very impressive.
No, very.
They're trying to make that a model and do it more, because I believe it's very important for older children to help younger children learn, because the older children learn a lot from that, and it's good for everybody.
You build leaderships, because if the older children are the leaders of the project, the younger ones, it's not so easy to build a leader. Well, so that's enough. Another question? Well, if no, I know if you want to add something, or probably I don't have some moment.
Yeah, I just would like to know from what kind of journal or a paper or whatever you are.
Well, I'm a kind of journal, so
yeah.
it's different.